we also heard from Keith Davidson earlier this week. And the attorney, he came up and he essentially said, well, listen, I do these kind of deals all the time. And I thought that also was very helpful to the Trump team. He was brought up to say, yeah, there was this money that changed hands, but then he also brought up that he does this for what I think he said Hulk Hogan, Tiger Woods, all of these sort of non-disclosure agreements. How does that also help the Trump team? Because my first thought was, if any of the 15,000 clients that he said he's done it for and that he's worked with, maybe some of them have run for office, and maybe I guess they should be charged with some campaign violation too, right?
Yeah, and to your point, Rahm Emanuel was one of the names that was mentioned as doing these types of transactions. Listen, this is one of the challenges with our current culture and the age of celebrity is, these unfounded accusations can hurt people's reputation, not just in a campaign. And I think this is, to my earlier point, it's their personal lives, it's their relationships with their families, with their spouses. And so, I think his testimony actually demonstrated that this had very little to do, if anything, to do with the campaign and everything to do with the fact that Donald Trump was a celebrity and very famous and wealthy. And it comes with it. 15,000, that struck me as a real kind of almost an industry of being, shakedown.
Yeah, it was interesting because it shows that it's big business and it happens all the different time. How important are the judge's instructions here? One of the things I'm looking at, Matt, because I'm thinking if the judge, when he goes to the jury instructions, which of course is still a few weeks away, and Judge Marchand doesn't seem to be very favorable to Trump, needless to say, as we have seen so far. But if he goes to the jury and he says, you know what, it has to be solely the reason and the motivation by the president is for campaign finance, then they're trying to lump it in. But if you could say, well, there was a personal aspect to it, isn't that then blown out of the water? If you're in the jury, you go, well, wait a minute. We heard this week from Hope Hicks that he was worried about Melania. He didn't want her to see the newspapers delivered to the house. He was worried about his personal relationship. Doesn't it say basically case closed? So it really is important how the judge steers it and the politicization, if you will, and the motivation that the judge gives the jury when it goes to that.
That's absolutely right, Rita. A mixed purpose expense is not a campaign expense. It's why the Federal Election Commission rejected this case. It's why the Southern District of New York rejected this case. The law is pretty clear. But these novel legal theories that Alvin Bragg has based this case on, the jury instructions are going to be very important. And to your point, they should be argued over pretty significantly because there really is no standard under New York law right now. So this is going to be a very important issue on appeal as well if President Trump somehow loses this case. But, this judge has proven to be completely conflicted, completely unfair to Donald Trump. And so I don't know why we would think all of a sudden in the jury instruction phase he would somehow find reasoning.
And you have to wonder, Matt, is the objective maybe knowing that they may even be overturned very much on appeal for some of the decisions? Even the fact, like you talked about, the judge didn't recuse himself. You got the issue, of course, with his daughter. You got all of this stuff. So maybe the whole objective is just to get a conviction for Alvin Bragg, even if down the road. In the middle of all this, too, I got to get your impression very quick, too, on the gag order, because the judge came out this week, Matt, and even there were some suggestions by the prosecution that maybe Trump could face jail time over the one-sided gag order. Do you see that happening? That's an extraordinary comment.
Yeah, I think that would be outrageous. Obviously, I think a lot on the left think that is a bridge too far, and they think it would tip politically to the advantage of President Trump. But this unconstitutional gag order that prevents him from speaking out, prevents him from campaigning, prevents him from responding to attacks from people like Michael Cohen, who's on TikTok raising money and saying terrible things about the president, I think is just one of the fundamental unfairnesses of this trial. But, again, the American people see it for what it is.